Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the subject of this 10-minute moan is an absolutely disastrous part of the Ministerial Code that I stumbled upon while making a complaint to the Ethical Standards Commissioner about a minister. Now, I received a reply yesterday from the Ethical Standards Commissioner after lodging a complaint about a minister in mid-March. Now, right off, I must stress that I've got no axe to grind whatsoever with the Ethical Standards Commission. The complete opposite, in fact. I've had two very respectful phone calls with two different people within the Ethical Standards Commission, both very helpful in explaining and advising on a couple of points I needed clarification for from the letter I received via email. Now, the first thing I had to ask them about was a bit in the letter talking about confidentiality and expecting me to remain confidential about their investigation. And I received this. It wasn't a demand, it wasn't pointing out any point in law. It was a request from the man who wrote me the letter asking for confidentiality. And out of respect, I'll mention as little as possible about the investigation while sharing what I feel is a story that the public would be very, very interested in. So, I think anybody who has been a keen observer of the channel over the last few months will be perfectly aware of any particular reason I might have had to complain about an MSP to the Ethical Standards Commissioner about something they've done recently. Now, I have to explain to you, for purposes of the problem that I've stumbled upon, that my complaint was regarding behaviour from the First Minister. Now, the Ethical Standards Commissioner investigated my complaint and advised me that because my complaint was subject to something that Humza Yousaf done as a First Minister and not as an MSP, then he couldn't actually deal with my investigation any further, because he is only allowed to deal with MSPs and any issues they have. He is not allowed to deal with First Ministers or any other Cabinet Ministers, and I believe a few top-ranking senior civil servants. In 2018, Nicola Sturgeon launched a new, updated process dealing with the Ministerial Code. She launched it to much fanfare, and as usual, including many buzzwords, where she promised to be trustworthy, openness, transparency, all these things that we would expect of a government, and in 2018 told us that she would take personal ownership of it and deal with this new Ministerial Code process, which we didn't pick up at the time. Meant if you had a complaint about the First Minister, it was the First Minister that complained about it. You had to complain to, because in my letter, as I'll put on the screen just now, the Ethical Standards Commissioner advised me that my complaint would have to go to a Ministerial Code complaint, and advised me to address that complaint to the office of the First Minister. How bonkers is that? The Ministerial Code is governed and looked after by the First Minister. Now, I don't need to tell you, there's been two very recent Ministerial Code cases in the Scottish Government. The first actually involved Nicola Sturgeon. Well, she was the First Minister, so she would actually have been dealing with a complaint whereby there was an issue, a suggestion that she had lied to the Parliament. And if I remember rightly, it went to an independent body, which consists of an Irish judge, who found she hadn't broke the Ministerial Code. Surprise, surprise. And there's still people fighting to actually gain access to this findings because they've not been made public. They've been heavily, heavily retracted. So, is it any wonder? I think that case was probably the outcome decided as soon as the complaint landed on Miss Sturgeon's desk. There's one quite public complaint of the Ministerial Code that obviously had to go past Humza Yousaf's desk, and that was a recent one with Michael Matheson. And if you remember, Humza Yousaf was quite adamant when asked if he should sack the First Minister, sack his then Health Minister because of the allegations and the issues made, and he was quite at pains to explain that no, we need to make this process run through. They have to see the process through. Forgot to tell us that the head of that process was him. However, he did tell us something about Michael Matheson while this investigation of Ministerial Code was going through the office of Humza. Humza was actually telling us that he didn't deserve to be sacked because he was such a good guy and he'd only made a mistake. If that isn't prejudicing the outcome of an inquiry, I don't know what is. You've got the guy who's actually in charge of the inquiry telling us the guy who's been looked at the inquiry before the inquiry decision's been made public that the guy's a good geezer and shouldn't lose his job. This is ridiculous. I don't know what to do about my complaint now. The simple fact is, if I want anything to be done about it, I need to make a complaint about Humza Yousaf to the office of Humza Yousaf. Now, I'm not the most learned in the processes of Parliament. If anybody else has any other avenue I may take with my complaint, I'd be delighted to hear from you. But I thought I was putting it to the correct place, which is the Ethical Standards Commissioner, who's now told me, unfortunately, he can't look at it because of the level of the Minister involved, and I've actually to complain to the Minister himself. Only in Scotland could you have somebody like Nicola Sturgeon launch her amended and new, absolutely fantastic Ministerial Code process. At the time, anybody that wanted to complain about anybody in the Ministerial Code had to complain to Nicola Sturgeon because she was the First Minister that implemented it. I don't think Nicola explained that to the Scottish public when she was doing her buzzword-full press release about how transparent the government had to be because we were entering a new era of openness, etc, etc, etc. I won't read her press release verbatim, but I will put a link to it below because it's absolutely fascinating when you consider what she's actually saying and the reality behind her words. The First Minister is now judge and jury over any complaints in the Ministerial Code about the First Minister. They're actually judge and jury about all complaints in the Ministerial Code, regardless if it's about them, their cabinet, or senior government officials, who also come under the Ministerial Code. This is the Stasi. I don't know what went before 2018, before Nicola Sturgeon's amended version of the Ministerial Code. I would probably like to know what she changed. But where we are after she changed, now, if that was the way it worked previously, and Nicola wanted this transparency so badly that she claimed she did, then surely she would have come up with a process that didn't involve complaints about the First Minister going to the First Minister. Surely, if previously, and I do not know if it was or it wasn't, but if it was previously the route for any complaints, surely she had a great opportunity to change it. What would be even worse is if the old process made you complain about the First Minister to someone other than the First Minister, and she's gerrymandered this situation. I will look out for the truth, as usual. But there we go. So in Scotland, the Ethical Standards Commissioner does not have the ability to look at any complaints about the First Minister, their cabinet, or their senior officials in the government. Sorry, in the government, the top civil servants. The First Minister does. And I think that's absolutely bonkers. So thanks very much, Nicola, for giving us this other bit of absolutely useless process, which you felt and told the Scottish people led us, or would lead us, to a more transparent government. It has done the complete opposite. And so, as I always say at the end of my videos, if you like it, give it a thumbs up. Please get involved in the comments below. Share it if you think others would like to see it. And the most important thing, I say all at the end of all my videos, unless you're Nicola Sturgeon, Humza Yousaf, or anybody else protected by this Ministerial Code process, have a great day. Cheery bye now.